And my cousin and a couple friends of mine that were in high school in Enugu, picked me up from the airport. And I remember that that night was quite something else because we spent the night drinking. Good day once again, ladies and gentlemen. As I was narrating to us how I abruptly changed plans to travel out to the States, and my father having paid my school fees. At the time, my school fees was $6,310, which was my father paid a little over 4,000 naira only, as against today, where the dollar rate is 710 naira per dollar. When I traveled to the United States to study, I remember vividly that I could change naira to dollars at the airport, and I got more money in return. That's how good things were at the time. And then you didn't need to travel with a visa to the United Kingdom. They will stamp you in as you come. Those were the privileges that we enjoyed as part of the Commonwealth state. But unfortunately, we see where we are. I flew in to New York by God's grace, and from New York, I caught a connecting flight to Dallas, and my cousin and a couple friends of mine that were in high school in Enugu, picked me up from the airport. And I remember that that night was quite something else because we spent the night drinking in my cousin's apartment. My cousin was living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We had a roommate. And so I lived with them, and then a couple of days later, I went to school and did all the registration and everything. Bishop College happened to be one of the very prominent black colleges in the United States at the time. And studies went on, and life there was quite exhilarating because one enjoyed so much freedom. Freedom to do so many things, and I didn't have the supervision of my parents or uncle or what have you. And so even as a student, one started partying almost from the weekend to 3 nights in a week to 4 nights in a week. And that's the way we were living. Studies there wasn't difficult. I found out all it entailed for me was to be in class and assimilate what was being taught. And once I got used to the language, within a couple months, it was quite easy. And then I had a retinue of girlfriends that I kept. And then either you take one to the movie and the other to dinner or lunch. And that was the way we were living. And we felt like we were living it up. Then it was difficult to bring money from Nigeria, unlike now. It has to undergo through a lot of processes. But my cousin that I was with, his father had a business partner who was British, and all he needed to do was to say he was in need of money, and the man would wire money to him. The father would pay back later. And so money was never a problem. In fact, it got to one point where my cousin received $18,000, and that money was spent within 3 months in Riotous Living with the girlfriend. So I got upset with him. So how can you spend so much, you know? In the midst of the quarrel, my cousin, who is also not like I, pulled a gun at me, a .28. You know, it's a small pistol, and I told him that that piece of crap couldn't kill me. You know, my cousin is would I say, a weirdo. He could go off sometimes. Unfortunately, he didn't pull the trigger, and then the roommate was able to separate us from the quarrel. And in the next episode, I'll begin to tell us about the other side of life in the United States. Thank you very much, and God bless you for listening.
Freedom, free will, choice making. Living with parents in Nigeria, you are not exactly free like that to navigate life the way you choose. But Henry went to the US, no parent, no inhibitions, nobody to say this is wrong. And he began to live the life of the free and the brave in God's own country. Let me warn every one of us, freedom should have limits. Living as he liked led to his cousin pulling a gun on him. Quarreling, fighting over issues. Henry's life could have ended that night, but what kept that young man from pulling the gun? He himself said the young man was weird. That means he could go off the wrong tangent. Could have killed him. But just like we said in the last episode, an invisible hand. An invisible hand determined that Henry should live. That is God. This God, do you know him? You don't need to get into trouble like Henry before you know God. Where you are now, don't you think you need to retrace your steps and put God at the center of your life now? Taking freedom with two hands because you saw yourself free and nobody is telling you what to do doesn't mean you are right. Put God at the center of your life. You will avoid many, many mistakes as the story of Henry. Forward these videos to your friends. Let them follow what God is doing in the life of this young man. You will encourage somebody who may be in trouble today. Thank you. God bless.